hold on. I clicked out of it. Russell, I remembered this time. I remembered this week, you guys. But no, you guys are at Author Talk with me, Aimee Russell. Our lovely author guest co-host today is Bjorn, and our author guest is Josh, which just happens to be the same name as my husband, who has started working from home. So you have a great name. I'm a huge fan of you already because you have.
Yes, but Josh, when
name.
I say poor Josh, I'm actually referring to her husband, not you.
I like it.
Oh man, goodness. Oh, you guys. All right, let's dive into the weekend. Valerie's not here, so we can't talk about her margarita escapades. We're going to have to wait a week, Russell. We're going to have to wait. But this weekend, you guys, my brother-in-law actually came in town. He is working over in Conroe, and I'm about an hour from there. So I got to spend time with him. He helped me fix the sprinkler system. So you guys know how we had the backhoe, we did the sand. Josh screwed his foot, right? Stepped on a screw, did all this, so he couldn't do it. Well, in his little adventure with this tractor, which tore up my yard, also tore up my irrigation system. So I learned a hell of a lot about it and fixing it. So now I can fix sprinklers, you guys. I can. Don't no one say anything different. In my eyes, I can do it. Okay. May have taken a while and a few Starbucks runs, but I did make it. Meadow's on a countdown, you guys. Meadow only has 17 days left of kindergarten. Russell, oh my gosh. And she's at a field trip that she asked me. I believe she begged me not to come on. So naturally, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to go. Naturally, I'm not going to give her what she wants. But I thought you guys would all really enjoy this. Russell, you especially. So my daughter's school, they've never put out anything about author visits, anything like that, because you guys know I would pitch all of you guys for it. But my daughter's the most excited because they actually are going to have an author guest this afternoon, which is why she didn't want me to come on her field trip, because I always take her home because I don't want to go wait in the car pickup line. But they're going to have an author guest that's going to read to them. And if you guys have experience with this, I would love to hear it in the comments or whatever. But instead of the school purchasing books, which is usually just how it goes, right? In elementary schools, the school purchases the book and the kids get it. They send out a mass email to every parent, and it has the whole portfolio of the author, all the books. And they said, if you want your book or books autographed, you can purchase them, send them with your kid, and they'll autograph all of them. I thought that was fantastic. Now, did I do that? No, but do more better than me. Okay. But I just thought it was an interesting kind of take. So if any of you guys have done that, listening now, later, whenever, I'd love to hear about it.
I can't believe the author just didn't give everyone a book and autograph them. That's what I would have done.
I know. That was my kind of thing too. That's what I always recommend. So it was interesting. It was different, right? But she was so excited, which is why she begged me not to pick her up. And I was like, Meadow, you meet authors all the time. Mommy talks to authors all the time. She's like, no, Mommy, you don't know this author, Mom. I'm like, oh my God, whatever. So it was a whole argument, but naturally I'm going to go after this and pick her up because that's just what I do. But what all did you guys do this weekend? Have you had experience like that? And if so, what was it like? So who wants to dive in? Because I will play popcorn chicken, you guys, and just call on you if you don't. So who wants to dive in and tell me about their weekend first?
I don't have anything from this past weekend. I might be the most boring person you would ever meet, so I have no stories. But Easter weekend was a little different.
Okay.
We have a cat, a Maine Coon, who is we inherited her. She's, for the lack of a better description, a serial murderer of small animals. And she likes to bring them in the house in anywhere from fully intact to gently used to shoebox worthy. And this past weekend, she brought in a shoebox worthy baby bunny from somewhere on the property. Okay, it gets better from here, though. So we took care of that. An hour later, we hear little animals screaming coming from the hallway. So I go down the hallway, and she has brought another bunny, but this time the bunny is fully intact and unhurt. So now we have a pet bunny.
What? Okay.
But when she starts bringing,
like my dog.
But when she starts bringing in snakes or the neighbor's chickens or something like that, we have to make a change. But
Yeah, but you're gonna keep the bunny. I like that. My dog did that, except he, shook the hell out of every bunny. I didn't know there were bunnies out there because in my other house we don't have bunnies. We didn't have that, so this was a new venture. And this is such a gross story, but I'm going to tell it anyways because he brought a dead bunny inside. And I didn't see it, and I stepped on it and had to clean it, and that's when we were like, "What is?" It was gross. So I feel terrible for you, but at least you got to keep a bunny. I didn't get to keep a bunny, so I'm jealous that you got to do that.
and then I sent the lovely Ellen to the store to get bunny supplies for the bunny, and that was a mistake because it was expensive. Now we have an expensive pet bunny.
It's modern lettuce. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just let it go?
Oh.
We could have, but it probably wouldn't have made it far. We have a lot of hawks and foxes and stuff, so it would have been more of a running the gauntlet kind of thing.
Someone's lunch.
Oh man.
Exactly.
So you saved it. Russell, he saved it.
No.
I like it. Have you named
Dogs
it?
have to eat too.
Yeah, they do. They eat the chickens.
Oh my goodness. Josh, what did you do this weekend?
No,
We have to talk about enough animal killing.
No exciting rabbit hunts at my house. We were out celebrating my sister's birthday last night. She's in town from California, so that was fun. And we just family and friends and drinks and food. It was a good time.
I love it. I love it. You had me at drinks and food. I like
That's
it.
usually where most Mendoza events start with.
Ah, perfect.
Well, that's a good foundation.
Yeah.
You
Good
gotta build
foundation.
from something, right?
Right, exactly.
Russell, what did you do? You're my adventurer.
Okay, I had a great weekend. I have lots of things that I wanted to talk about, but now I don't. I have 3 other things to talk about. One is, so Saturday we had the front tickets to the Braves Dodgers national TV game. And we were very excited about it because basically we were going to sit where, when you're watching the pitcher and the catcher, the people behind it, that was going to be us. And we had our own bartender. And so it was going to be spectacular. But then it rained out.
Oh, no.
So then this morning, the dog ate a window. We have a 6-month-old golden retriever puppy, and she ate a window.
Named Rita.
I think I just dropped $1,000.
Yeah.
How does one eat a window? How does that
That's
happen?
exactly my point. Exactly. I agree with that. I couldn't believe it. And it's my fault because you got to keep your eye on these little dogs.
Yeah.
But so that was stupid. But the thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about Bjorn a little bit. I actually have talked about Bjorn a couple of times.
Oh, snap.
And Bjorn is our guest host, substituting for Valerie. He's certainly not as pretty as Val is.
No, not at all.
But and we really don't need 2 ugly people on the show at once. But here we go.
We're on the same side of the screen at least.
Bjorn
You just met me, Russell.
has he's a writer, he has books, and he works hard promoting his books. And I've been very impressed with Bjorn, how hard he works, but how humble he works. And I just wanted to say I've been very impressed with Bjorn, and welcome on board.
Thank you, Russell. That is high praise. I appreciate that.
Now, we need to thank everybody listening to us. Josh, most people don't listen to us when we go live. Most people listen to us on our podcast during the week. We've been top 10% on some channels, top 1% on one channel, and we're very humbled by it. And we are very thankful. The first 6 months we were on podcasts, I couldn't find us. We kept asking Amy, where are we? Here where there's too many. She did some magic, and now we're at the top when you look for us, so even I could find us. Amy, where can people find us on our podcast?
Oh, you guys, that is true. That was a brutal 6 months. I believe every day after our show, I got a text from Russell. It's like, where are we? I can't find us, so it was brutal, but no. So my go-to, you guys, is I go to Amazon Music. My husband goes to Spotify. If you're an Apple user, iTunes. If you're an Android user, Google Play, right, to listen to it. We're also on Good Pods, but you can find us anywhere that you can search for a podcast. Just type in Author Talk. Look for the crimson, red, and gold, because like always, I was selfish and picked those colors because they're my favorite. Roll Tide and crimson red. Okay, I'm going to die on that bed. Roll Tide. That's just how it goes. Okay, even though I live in Aggieville, it's Roll Tide and hook 'em horns. Okay, I'm sorry, but that's just
Stop
how my
saying
life
that.
goes. No, see, it really irks Russell, so I got to keep saying it. Anyways, you can find us anywhere over there, and I tell you guys, I mean this with the utmost love for Russell. He can now find us, so therefore, anyone can find us.
That's
on the
true.
podcast.
That's not a cut. That's
No,
true.
it's the truth, you guys. But if you want to watch us, see what we look like, how animated me and Valerie usually are, or engage with us, you can go over to our YouTube channel, our Facebook group, any one of our social media channels. And you can direct message us if you want to be on, ask questions in the comment section. We always get to them either live during the show or after, whenever you're listening, watching, whatever. But yeah, other than that, you guys, it's been 9 years. Can you believe it? 9.5 years. I know, Russell. I know. So crazy time.
An empire.
Yeah, we are the big empire. No, it's been a lot of fun. So backstory for Bjorn.
Now come on, your opening music is definitely indication Josh is right. You're an empire now. That sounded like Good Morning America starting or something.
It did.
That has to mean you made it, right?
Hey, Dina made those and sent them to me. But backstory, you guys, really quick for Josh and Bjorn, then you guys knew listening to us. Author Talk is a baby of Russell's. It was Russell's idea. Him and Sandy were originally on it. And Russell always loves to mention this and give me crap, but it's fair. I would go and record it for them. I was not one to be on this show. That was not the Aimee you see today is not the Aimee Russell met. Okay. That's just not how this works. Every now and then I would turn the camera around and give them crap and then turn it back around. I didn't like being on it. So if you want to have a good laugh and a good chuckle, our YouTube channel has all of our videos from when we first started to now. And it is a great, evolution, but it's hilarious too. I cringe when I go and watch them, but it is a baby of Russell's. And so he is the reason that we have made it so far. I've helped it in rebranding, but Russell is the driving force behind it. He just doesn't tell anybody that, but I will. That's what I like to do. But Bjorn, Russell, and myself, let's get Josh talking about his book, how he got into the writing, everything like that. So Josh,
all the things.
How did you get written or bitten by the writer's bug? I always kind of like to start with that question.
I always wanted to be a writer from when I was like a little kid. I was the guy in the science fiction section at my local indie bookstore, just back there reading, and I just have devoured stories. And when I went to college, I took a lot of creative writing classes and was thinking I was going to be a novelist, and sort of got waylaid or bitten by the movie bug and started chasing that dream instead. And I'm a screenwriter, and I had a feature film come out a few years back, which I wrote and directed. And I had this idea for what is Shadow of the Eternal Watcher when we were in post on that movie, actually. And I was thinking about, all right, I think it's going to be a big script. It's going to be like a space opera. And the more I thought about it, I was like, I think this is just going to be what would become a very expensive movie. And maybe one day it'll be a movie. But at the time I was like, well, if I read this script, it's probably just going to be something I pass around and people are like, pat on the back. Maybe I get hired to do something else. No one was ever going to read it or see it probably. So I was like, maybe I'll get back to my roots. And I went back and started working on this as a novel, which is originally what I wanted to do. So it was fun to get back into those types of stories and flex that muscle, and the rest is history, because here we are, and Shadow the Eternal Watchers out there now.
Nice. So it's like a full circle moment. You kind of wanted to do it, did creative writing classes, deviated a little bit, and then you came on back. I like it. Russell's unmuted.
I do have a question, Josh, that you just provoked.
What's up,
And
Russ?
that is, what is your foundational science fiction books that you read that had the most influence on both your love of science fiction and perhaps your work?
Yeah. Well, I mean, growing up, I mean, I read it all. So I mean, I read the classics, Le Guin, I was reading Dune, but I mean, I was a big expanded universe Star Wars kid too. I mean, I read all those books. So I mean, I grabbed everything I could get my hands on. Obviously, Michael Crichton. I mean, I did it all, and you know, I think reading a lot of different stuff. I mean, my book is not a very technical. I brought Michael Crichton. I mean, I'm not really into the sciencey part of science fiction. I'm more in a magical realism kind of vibe, I would say. But you know, there's some science. It's just enough to appease people and not get too in the weeds on how everything works. More space opera, Star Wars vibe. But yeah, you know, I'm a big believer in reading lots of different stories. I mean, I just finished Song of Achilles, which is just in a completely different wheelhouse. But I just keep reading, and hopefully, it inspires better stories from me in some different way too.
When you were writing your book, Josh, because you have a filmmaking background, did you find yourself really writing it as though it will be film, or because of your background, or were you more inclined to really swing out into the more imaginative, harder to film aspects of writing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I felt the restraints pulled away, because I mean, whenever you write something for screen, especially if you're going to make it, I mean, you're always like, well, how much is this going to cost? Like, are we going to be able to do this? And even once you've greenlit it and you're starting to shoot it, you're changing things, because it's like, oh well, we thought we could do this, but we can't. So what else could we do? So that was very liberating to get to do whatever I wanted to do and kind of let those wings fly. But I mean, I've always enjoyed pithy, fast moving stories. So I think the screenwriter in me helped with my edits too, and just pulling back where maybe I got too in the weeds on things, and maybe people might be bored. I'm like, okay, well, how can I keep the action moving? How can I keep the scenes moving? I always think of everything of like, what's my in, what's my out, and what are my characters doing that matters for the story? And if I can't answer all those questions, it probably doesn't need to be in the book or in the screenplay.
So your background definitely helped. Instead of, you didn't find yourself fighting two different philosophies on writing. That sounds what you're saying, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I mean, the screenwriter in me, I definitely think of every scene as like, all right, if we were shooting this, what would it look like? And I think that just helps me ground myself in like a verisimilitude of reality for my readers too. This is actually happening. This is where the furniture is, because that stuff, you know, it really matters. Obviously, you imagine those things when you're making a movie. It may be different when you show up on the day, but I do think imagining that when you're writing helps just ground it in reality.
All right. And you said earlier you didn't get too buried into details of technology and all. That's probably a good thing, because it seems like a lot of readers, that's how they find ways to pick away at your storyline, is if you start diving into the heavy technicals like that. So that's cool.
Get some magic tech going. That's my vibe.
That's right. Yep, exactly. Speculative magic.
So how did the idea for this book come about? You said it's kind of like a space opera. You're a huge Star Wars fan, which, welcome to the club. I had my youngest, I named Sky, and it was going to be Skywalker. And because she's, you know, a girl, we did Sky Ray. And so you are among others that like Star Wars. I'm just saying.
Well, I love it all. I mean, I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love I love, you know, growing up on the old Nick at Night Twilight Zone reruns. I mean, and that, I think in getting into this book, that really inspired me a lot. I was thinking about those old school kind of multiversal stories versus, you know, it's become so ubiquitous now with Marvel, right? And this cinematic universe of like, everyone's got a double and we can just retell stories. So definitely when I was getting into like more of a science fiction multiverse story, I kind of went back to those old roots, because I mean, Twilight Zone to me is the original multiverse, right? It's like step through this door into another reality.
So was the Mirror Universe episode of the original Star Trek?
Oh, of course.
That was definitely part of it too, huh?
Oh, that's definitely part of it.
Oh yeah,
but,
absolutely.
You know, in my book, not everyone has a double, so that was kind of my spin on it. Was there's only these two realities that we know of that humanity survived in, and just they've gone their separate ways. One is our world, our universe, and this other one is a universe where Rome and China teamed up and never looked back, right? So they had like this kind of golden age of technology when we were having the dark ages. So it was fun to get to kind of imagine this alternate reality that started to had a golden age and it's kind of on its downward trend now. And what does that look like in comparison to us? But in terms of where the story came from, I mean, I like to do genre mashups. I do that with my screenwriting too. So I had this idea for a noir LA detective story, which is another genre I love. I love film noir. And I was thinking of this big space opera, and I said, you know, what if I put them together and just tried to figure out how that could work? And some of the fun of this book was in writing the detective mystery part. That's sort of the mystery of, hey, you're actually reading a science fiction book. So that was just fun for me, and kind of a flex of how do you get these genres to work together too, and have their stereotypical roots, and then try to defy expectations as you go on too.
No, you're speaking my language. I love to mix genres. I do the same thing. That's half the fun of doing it. I think.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because it's great to hear that. I mean, sometimes you go pitch that to people, and they're like, I don't know, why is it not just a detective story? Why is it not just this by the book? But then if you pitch them the by the book story, they're like, yeah, I've seen that before. I've read that before. I don't want to deal with that. So you have to kind of push ahead and find your interesting ways to tell it differently, and hopefully it speaks to people too.
So that brings me to a couple of questions then. Let me ask both questions and you can answer them. The first question is, I would love for you to tell the listeners as they're driving to work or wherever a little bit more about your book, about what the story is. And the second thing is the whole new theory about there being infinite amount of universes because of the circle of time and gravitation. Did the multi-universe, that theory, did that inspire any part of this book? And that was the second question. So you can answer those two questions.
Yeah, so just the book itself, Shadow of the Eternal Watcher, it follows Duster Raines, a down on his luck detective working the streets of Los Angeles, just kind of the classic. He's a drunk. He hangs out at his local watering hole, and his life did not turn out the way he imagined it. He gets pulled into this case he doesn't really want to take, that sort of sends him on this spiraling into this, what is a multiversal science fiction space opera. So, I mean, part of the fun again is that he's this detective. Do you like him? He definitely skirts the line between hero, anti-hero, but I think at the end of the day, he has hero vibes, and he's trying to prove that to us. And it was just a fun character to deal with, and surround him with people who want him to do better than he has in the past. And obviously being thrown into a universe where his double is important, and when you have a double in this reality, magical things start to happen with space-time, and he's discovering that he is maybe more important than he thought he was, and what does that mean for him too, and how's he going to use that power? And then in terms of the multiverse stuff, yeah, I mean, I love, like I said, I mean, I've eaten that stuff up since I was a kid. Bjorn already spoke to it. Mir, like I've always been the kid who was like, and I'm still that kid. The what ifs, right? Well, what if this happened, and what if that happened? And you read these stories or you see these shows, and you're like, well, what's next? And you start imagining and daydreaming about that. And that's what's fun about that, because it does kind of give you infinite choice, right, and infinite possibilities. But then, what does that mean from a human perspective? Of if you're not, because I think a lot of us ground ourselves in our uniqueness, right? We're special. We have our own story. We're living that. But then if there is a multiverse and there are other versions of us or other versions of reality where we're not around or not important, what does that do to our ego and our sense of self? And I think that's just from a writing perspective, an interesting character to delve into as well.
So if I have a particular writer question for you, what bad traits did you accentuate in your protagonist? Mm-hmm. And who is your antagonist in this book? And what traits would a reader find attractive in your antagonist? Because that's always a challenge when you're
Yeah.
making your characters interesting.
Well, I kind of hinted at it before. I mean, Duster Raines, he's got a lot of flaws. I mean, he's a former Air Force pilot hero from a war that he did some things he's not proud of in that war, and it's haunted him. And he's tried to make up for those mistakes by maybe not making the best choices. The ends maybe don't justify the means, don't justify the ends, right? So, I mean, he has a lot of flaws in him. So, I think to me, it was interesting that he is not necessarily a good guy, but you're rooting for him. And then his double too, having led this reality and really being an important person too. It's there's reasons to root for him too, but he's a bad guy too. So what is in Duster Raines that makes him good and bad? So I mean, he's kind of the protagonist and the antagonist for himself. I mean, he's very self-centered, egotistical. I mean, the book's in first person, and you get a lot of that. I mean, he's all about himself and where he's going and what does this all mean to him. And I think pulling him back when he starts to care for some of the other people who are getting caught up in this multiversal problem that he's kind of unleashed and trying to fix that kind of brings him back to his roots of the person he thought he was and what he wanted to do. So I think we're rooting for him to maybe become that better person he thinks he should have been and wants to be.
Well, then what are you really proudest about this book? What is there a scene
Mm,
or what are you proudest about this book? And my next question is, you mentioned Dune before. Dune had some environmental uh,
mhm.
backstage messages. Uh, does your book have any backstage message that you're communicating?
Yeah. Well, in terms of backstage, I mean, it's about power. It's about the corruption of power. What do we do with it? What's there's I'm trying not to give too much of the story away, but there's a lot of the reason that this multiverse is coming to our world is to escape another threat and fighting this war that they've been losing, but also doing some terrible things to win too. So what when humans are fighting other things than humans, does it justify those terrible acts? And then why are we doing terrible acts to ourselves too, as human beings tend to do? And you spoke to antagonist, protagonist too, and I think a lot of times we are drawn to antagonists. I mean, people going back to Star Wars, people love Darth Vader, right? And they're obsessed with Darth Vader. And Darth Vader's actually a terrible person, right? And blows up planets and kills a lot of people and strangles people. But like, I think antagonists tend to have a reason they're doing something, right? And I think human beings can get on board with that. So you're like, I'm going to destroy the world because this thing, and you're like, oh, I can kind of see that. Whereas a lot of times protagonists are just like, I'm going to save everyone because I'm a good guy, and that's not as interesting because I don't think any of us, we're all mixed, right? We're good, we're bad. So I think we tend to be drawn to those darker characters because they tend to have more driving their character and more reason. And I think that's always something when you're writing, you have to think about is like, what is the reason for these characters to be doing these things? If you're just doing it for plot, it's not going to speak to a reader or a viewer. So I kind of got off tangent there, Russ, and maybe lost the thread of what the original question was.
I like
but,
that tangent. That
yeah.
tangent was some of your best answer. I am wondering, uh, when was your book released? How's your
Mm-hmm.
book doing? And what is your hopes for the book?
Yeah, well, it's the 5th of May. It came out January 28th, so it's been out about 2.5 months now. It's doing really well. It's, I mean, we've sold thousands of copies already, which I'm excited about. And I'm just trying to, you write these things, at least I do, for people to read them and people to see the movies, right? Like I tell these stories because I feel like I have fun, exciting things to tell, and I just want people to enjoy it. And you asked, I remembered your question now, what was I most proud of? I mean, I tried to write a high level, well written page turner. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be exciting. I wanted it to be elevated, but I wanted it to just be something that people would read and be like, wow, that was a blast. Something that I would have wanted to pick up when I was that kid in that science fiction section. And I think I did that. And I mean, that's the feedback I've been getting, that people are enjoying it, and they're on this ride, and they like the roller coaster with Duster Reigns, and I'm excited that it's out there now. So it's been a couple months, and moving forward, I just want to reach as many people as I can. And I'm writing another book. I'm going to write a sequel for this one, and I'm working on something in just a completely different vein and universe, and I'm going to get that out too. So I'm just keep telling my stories too.
I have a train coming by on my mountain, so I can't talk. I can't. Someone else needs to ask.
That's a great sentence. I have a train coming by on my mountain.
It's a wild train, but it's a nice mountain I live on.
And the story begins.
Yeah, my biggest disruption would be chickens squawking or goats yowling or something like that. I cannot say I have a train coming through my property, but that's Russell. Man. Russell can do that.
I got all y'all beat. I got a 4-year-old at home who, Russell knows this because Russell has been around since my babies were little. They have screamed through the bottom of my door live on a show, and they know. They have knocked on my door. I'm surprised my youngest hasn't. She knocks on the door like she's the freaking cops, and then she hits it, so then it opens, and then she just randomly starts talking. And that's like, so I have all y'all, animals, trains, nothing can beat my kid yelling. Okay, like you will experience it this summer. Okay, it's just been a whole thing. But Josh, I am curious. So we have talked and worked with, and Russell's a writer, Bjorn's a writer. I'm not a writer. I market and I get to do all the fun party stuff. But every writer has their own kind of flair when it comes to writing their book, whether they outline, fly by the seat of their pants, write the ending first, and then everything else evolves into it. So what is your writing style when you're writing these? You said you're working on a sequel and you're kind of diving into another kind of realm. So is it a different journey for each one, or what works for you?
Yeah, it is a different journey. I'm not much of an outliner in the sense that, you see a lot of people with the cards up on the wall and they're moving them around. That's happening in my brain. My outlines are crazy notes on legal pads that if I gave them to Bjorn or Russell, they wouldn't be able to make a book out of it if they tried. So, but it makes sense to me. And I'm really good at keeping it straight in my head too, because I think that's a big challenge of writing, right? Is like you have a plan, you go through, you find the story, and then you go back and make it look like you had that plan like what ended up happening was the plan the whole time, right? And it's like you sprinkle these through. The one I'm working on now is interesting because it's a it's actually a short film I made when I was studying at USC that became a screenplay that has gone around and gotten me meetings and done very well for me. But again, it's kind of it's like Jaws meets Deliverance with a bear is how I usually pitch that movie. So it's just a monster, thriller in the woods of Alaska. A lot of magical realism. You might see some themes there. But, so that is interesting for me because I'm writing that right now, but I have that script, right? So that's sort of like an outline because it's done. I know what happened in the script. So now I'm trying to doing the book, it's fun to go through and be like, okay, well, I'm kind of rewriting some of it, changing the script then because I'm like, oh, well, what if this happens? But then also just expanding on that and getting lost in the characters too. So that's a different experience for me than trying to create from the get-go from scratch, right? So that's sort of my outline right now, which is it's a different process, but it's fun. It moves a little faster.
So from your original book you just released in January and the future sequels coming up, how many do you envision? I know I know where you're coming from with this, so the answer might be 10, it might be a million, but I mean when you look at your we'll call them background characters, your supporting characters, do you look at them and say this one's got a whole story to tell too, and so does this one, and so does this one? So do you envision spinoffs based on your supporting characters?
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far, honestly. I mean, there's a character who I love in this book. His name's Juan. He's kind of he's my muse. He's my Greek chorus yelling at Duster when he's doing things that I don't agree with. I'm like, hey, maybe we should do this instead. But then I let Duster do Duster. And I think that's sometimes the fun in writing. You were talking about what you do. I sometimes will plan, but then my characters start doing stuff and I let them go and I see where it takes me sometimes. But I think Juan has some stories in him, and in the sequel, he's going to play a bigger role. And maybe, you know, Duster's still a detective, even though we're getting more into a science fiction realm. Once you read the first one, you'll see that it's definitely going sci-fi, but I want to still have that detective part and that mystery part in the sequel. So just trying to think of what can happen with these characters and where they can go. And in terms of how many, I mean, right now, in terms of this contained story arc, I imagine 3 to 4. So it'll probably end up being 3 because everything's in threes, right? You do trilogies, but the second one definitely has an ending that I think will spiral into the next one. That's I've planned for, and now I just gotta, you know, tie the strings together on these nails to get them to be a book and have it happen.
I have a prediction that you'll end up writing a lot more spinoffs than you think you will right now.
I know.
After all the time you invested in your characters, I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, you know, and like I said, if people are reading it and they're enjoying it and they want more, like I would definitely, I enjoy the world and I enjoy the universe. So I think it'd be fun to kind of keep it going too.
Awesome.
I know a question that the listeners are dying for us to ask, so I have to ask it. And that is, based upon your background, you have a lot of friends in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So have any of them put it in the stack of pitches that they do when they go pitch productions?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I've got a manager too, and you know, you're always talking. I mean, obviously, the film world has kind of been rocked a little bit the last few years with COVID, then into a strike. So, I mean, definitely, maybe some of these lower tier, middle tier, in terms of budget, aren't happening as much. But you know, you're just always pitching and always trying to meet new people, and you never know. And I mean, I always say, I mean, that's why I wrote these books too, is because you know, you go into a lot of meetings a lot of times, and people are like, oh, like your original screenplay, wish we had some IP, which is intellectual property for people who don't know. But so like a book or a comic book that we're building this off of, right? And that's why you see a lot of these things. Oh, it's a book too, and then that's why that happens, because they feel like there's a built-in audience. So, you know, not saying that's what's going to happen with this book, but I was like, well, you know, maybe I will just create my own IP, and then that won't be an objection anymore because it'll exist. So that's one of the things that drove me to write the book in the first place too, is just getting that objection, getting that no a lot, and being like, well, I'm going to try to overcome it too.
So Josh, I have a question for you that your answer just led me into it is, so what is your take currently on artificial intelligence as far as a writer goes? Were you able to use it at all? Or is it something that you avoid? Is it something you think is very negative to writers? What's your thoughts?
I don't use it, and I don't think anyone should. But you know, I feel like
I think you're among friends.
I think it's like anything. I think one day we'll probably have stories written by people section that will be popular, right? Like vinyls come back for music, and I think like I look at AI, I see it as a good tool. I mean, I get it. People don't want to write an email; it does it really quickly for you. You don't, you know, when you write a blurb for your website, it can help you move a lot faster, right? So I get that, but I think in terms of our stories, our art, there's a soul in stories that come from the people that created them, and that's true of books. The authors poured themselves into that, and that's true of movies. There's a lot of people that make a movie happen, and they all have their fingerprints on it. So I don't think that should be what's telling our stories. Now, I think it will be a tool, and people will have to drive that, and we'll figure out what it is. But I also think that we, as the people who are consuming this stuff, it has to be more than just making some people rich, right? It has to be, we want it to make our lives better, and it does make our lives better, and it helps us in ways that moves the world forward in a positive way. So I think if we can get somewhere where it's usable, that we like what comes out of that, then that's fine. But I mean, we're talking about books, and I mean, every book I grew up reading, it's like we're starting to live them, right? So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of cautionary tales out there about this stuff, and I think we have to, and not even just the extremes of like AI is going to wake up one day, I better say thank you because it'll kill me one day. I think that's silly. But like, I think we see it with greed. We see it with where money is in, I don't want to get too political here, but when things are situated in like just certain places and the people creating these things are not necessarily doing it. I think there's some reason to do it for help, but I think it's also for capitalism and for profit too. And everyone's competing now. You see it every website you go on. Hey, use our AI for this, use our AI for that. And I think we as the consumer and the people using this stuff need to tell the world where we want it to go to.
Thank you.
So
I
definitely
agree with
something. We're in a constant struggle now. And it's going to be more and more of a morass that we have to deal with. And so,
well, and the bottom line is too, I mean, it learned from reading your book, Russell. It learned from reading Bjorn's book. It learned from reading Michael Crichton's book. I mean, the computer's not out there making this stuff up, right? I mean, it's regurgitating stuff that we've all done, and then acting like it's a smart computer. I mean, well, yes, but it's also still a computer that is, again, ones and zeros, spitting it back out to us. And it's good at it, but it's still the people who created it are what made it special in the first place.
I agree 100%. I mean, when you're talking about creative endeavors, there's a difference between, and I think I'm about to reword what you already answered pretty much, but when you're talking about a tool to advance humanity's survival or general technological level, things like that, building a car, building whatever, computer assistance, of course, is a good thing, I believe. But when you're talking about creative endeavors, that's more of a monument to the mind of a human. That's not about just creating a blob of words to read. I'm probably not expressing this the way I want to, but I'm agreeing with you 100%. I just feel like the creative aspect will never be replicated by a computer. It just won't. The problem for us three that right here is the market's going to be flooded with all these computer generated books now. So we're going to have thousands and thousands and millions of these things out there, and now we've got to compete with that.
Yeah.
So that's my aggravation with it, and I'm not sure if I'm one of a few, but that's how I look at it.
Well, Aimee, I have one more question.
Okay.
Josh, what are you reading right now?
That's a good question. Like I said at the top, I just finished Song of Achilles like last night, and I love that book. So Madeline Miller, if you haven't read it, and I have been reading Rob Hart's Warehouse and Paradox Hotel. So I'm figuring out what my next book is. I'm also when I'm driving around town, I like to do my nonfiction in my car on my Audible. I'm listening to a book about the Templars right now. So I'm a big history buff. I think when you read my book, you'll see that I sprinkled the history in, and then I change it and make it fiction. So, and I borrowed just enough for flavor.
I think you and I have a lot in common.
I'm gonna check
I do the same thing.
Out, Bjorn. Yeah, definitely.
Man, you guys, I don't get that. But man, when you're like in between books and you're searching for new books, it's just like, oh man, you're excited because you're looking for a new book, but at the same time, you're like, damn it, I want to read a book, and you can't find a book. Any other time when you're reading a book and you're like, oh, I'll read it, it doesn't pop up when you need it to.
Well, you can see behind me. I'm that guy who every time he goes to a bookstore comes home with something too. So I've read a lot of these behind me. I haven't read them all, so it's just a matter of picking one too.
Oh, see, there you go. See, I don't know. I'll go to my like author book groups or recommendation books. I'm like, oh, what's looking appealing? And then I end up reading like 3 books at one time. Then I end up getting them all confused. And then I'm listening to 2 different books at the same time. And then I'm reading a client's book. And then I'm just like, well, I'm booked out. I'm booked out this week kind of thing. So it's a wonderful, dreadful experience at the same time when you're looking for a new book, at least for me. It is. But you guys, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed the scowl on Russell's face. He tends to do that when I'm close on time and I'm still talking. So I don't want to get the look of death from Russell. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do last minute questions, comments, statements for Josh before we let Josh go this morning, afternoon, because Bjorn and Russell are on the East Coast. So you're East time. You're a little bit more ahead. So last minute questions. Bjorn, let's go to you, and then Russell.
When can we expect the sequel that you mentioned earlier, roughly?
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm working on it now. I'm going to finish this other one first, but I'll have a draft done this year. So books, I'm sure, as Russell and Bjorn can speak to, just because they're done doesn't mean it's coming out tomorrow either. They take some
Absolutely
time.
Not.
there's a workflow and a archaicness to books, which I kind of love and hate. But so I would say in the next couple years it'll be on a bookshelf, would be my guess.
Nice.
2.5 years would be my estimate, but it should be in a readable version by the end of this year.
Nice.
Okay,
Russell.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, would you please tell the listeners where they can find more about you? And my final question is, what do you prefer, South Carolina barbecue or Texas barbecue?
There's no wrong answer. They're both
Yes,
amazing.
there
I do like my mustard barbecue sauce though, but
yes, I'm a South Carolina barbecue
I knew that was
fan
coming.
too, even though I'm from Texas.
I like them both.
But,
you can't go wrong with either one.
I agree with that. You put a plate of ribs in front of me. I'll eat it with either sauce on it. They're amazing. But in terms of finding me, I mean, the easiest way is probably joshmendoza.com. That's my website, and I'm on all the social media things at Mendoza Strikes. So I'm on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me at all those places. And yeah, and I'm just hopefully more books and more movies to come. So come find me. I'd love to chat with you.
Man, I love it. Josh, you are welcome back anytime. It's such a fun conversation, breath of fresh air. So thanks for taking time out of your morning to come hang out, have a good laugh. Russell kind of picked on you, so it's a good thing, that he got his disclaimer in. So thanks.
That was great.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. So all of you guys, we hope wherever you are, you have a great Monday, a great rest of your week. And until next time, everybody, bye for now.